Hello and welcome to this webinar on collaborative risk management. My name is Rob Halstead and I'm the Head of Risk Management for Crossrail. This webinar is going to focus on the way that Crossrail is using risk management to collaborate with our supply chain. It talks about the project itself, the progress we've made to date, and it describes how and why we're extending our approach to risk management into our supply chain. I'll aim to show how we're measuring our performance and how managing risk can be a win-win activity for contractors and clients alike. Crossrail is Europe's largest infrastructure project to build a new railway in twin tunnels across London. There are 21 kilometres of twin-bore tunnels, 8 new underground stations, 6 million tonnes of spoil are being excavated from the central section to create a new island off the east coast of England. And there are significant works on the overground rail network to the west and east of London. 28 existing surface stations are being upgraded and about 90 kilometres of existing surface track network. The new railway is projected to add £42 billion to the UK economy in terms of extra jobs, redevelopment opportunities and quicker links between London and the city and Canary Wharf and the outer boroughs. Building the railway will also employ about 14,000 people at its peak and around 74,000 people over the life of the project. When the railway is complete, there'll be 24 trains per hour, each carrying over 1,000 people. The projections are that there'll be 200 million journeys a year on Crossrail alone, and Crossrail will increase London's rail capacity by 10%. Pretty much in one go when it opens in 2018. In terms of progress to date, the project's been 20 years in its development, but it's now well into the delivery phase. At the end of April, we had 10 kilometres of tunnels bored. We had 5 tunnel boring machines, which are now in the ground, each drilling up to 16 metres of tunnel per day and putting in place the concrete lining in segments behind them. In total, we've placed 50,000 tunnel segments out of an estimated 212,000 in the finished railway. We're also underway refurbishing existing brick tunnels that were built by Victorians 135 years ago in the docks of East London. This is Connaught Tunnel out in the east. We've also excavated all the shafts and stations down to track level, building some massive underground caverns. Some seriously impressive engineering going on. This is one of the caverns that will one day become a station underneath Liverpool Street Railway Station, and it will provide a link between Crossrail, London Underground and mainline rail services. And this is the activity beneath Bond Street Station, carving out the massive platform tunnels. When the central section of the railway opens in 2018, Bond Street Station will look like this. You get a sense of the scale of the job when you realise that the platforms are 250 metres long, 2.5 football pitches in length. And this is a picture of Paddington Station when it's complete. All of our stations will resemble small airports, a far cry from the current experience of travelling through central London on a train. And this is a picture of Farringdon Station. It's a good example of the highly connected nature of the Crossrail stations. Farringdon links Crossrail to London Underground and to Thameslink on the National Rail Network, and it's a good example of why we have to collaborate to build the Crossrail Railway. So collaboration is not just a nice to have, it's fundamental to the way that we're going to build this railway. Crossrail is a vast project. It's being delivered not by one organisation but by the whole of the UK and European rail industry. And risk management is well embedded within our organisation, with the emphasis being on supporting delivery, providing assurance and informing decision making. We've implemented risk hierarchy, identifying strategic, programme and project level risks. And governance, that's the review and reporting of risks, and also performance measurement of our risk management and quantitative analysis of cost and schedule impacts. I see our job as being about facilitating a discussion with management about risk and ensuring that this is followed up with real action. As we've already seen at Farringdon, we work very closely with our industry partners. With London Underground, we have a shared interface risk register, and with Network Rail, we share risk information and review together the risks to key interface milestones. And I think that it's part of the measure of the acceptance of risk management, that comment in the middle there, which comes from one of our project managers, that says that if it's perceived by a risk by one of our partners, we should put it on the register because it shows that we need to do a better job of communicating. I think that's a really positive evidence that we've got risk management working and that people are using it in the right way. So we are at the moment extending risk management into our supply chain and to our contractors. Why are we doing this? There are three main reasons for this. The first is that there's a strong risk management imperative to get the contractors to manage risks effectively. Most of our critical risks are managed by the contractors. I guess that's not unusual for many organisations. And we've had strong support from the insurers, the people that insure the Crossrail project, that we embed risk management right down the supply chain, right from the chief executive here at Crossrail down to the man who's holding who's driving a tunnelling machine or controlling the tunnelling activities down on the tunnel face. And there's a reference there to Joint Code of Practice. This is a document that the insurers have developed probably about 10 years ago, which demands really that we embed risk management right across the program. So there's a good imperative in the way we've allocated risks to get our supply chain managing risks along with us. Another factor is the size and complexity of the Crossrail program. We're configured as we have a massive job to do. We have over 60 delivery projects with 130 individual contracts. Those contracts range from the small to the enormous, from the £5 million to the £500 million. And we are configured as, Crossrail is configured as a lean client with an emphasis on getting contractors engaged and getting a strong and capable supply chain to share the management workload. And that extends not only just to risk management, but also to project management, stakeholder management, technical assurance, right across the range. And the third element is that we have had and are currently very much committed to building a collaborative relationship with our supply chain. We're using a form of contract called the NEC3 contract, which the opening line of which has that phrase there, in the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. That is the sort of basis of the NEC3 contract. So right from the start, we're talking about a collaborative approach with our supply chain. I feel very strongly that risk management promotes collaboration, and that actually going through the risk process, getting teams to work together to identify, assess and manage risks is a very much collaborative activity. It's a good way of getting the teams to manage better together. So when we look at how we can do this, we're essentially trying to get the contractors engage the contractors into our discussion about risk management and about risks. Part of risk management is getting the right people managing the right risks, and that comes in the allocation of risk between the parties. But it's also about recognizing that in the environment that we work in a target price arrangement where the client shares the pain, and there is no way of transferring delay risk away from us. Through the contract, we will share the impact of delay as much as the contractors. So as much as we allocate the risk between the parties, there is a real interest in each party helping the other to manage the risks that have been allocated to them. And really that's where we get to this win-win situation. So we've set up the model that we see in the slide below, whereby we have the Crossrail and the contractors are working together around a common set of risk information and working from that the point that come out to the right. What are the significant risks? What is the risk profile of each project and each contract? and then the risk management activity. What is the progress with actions? Are the risk management actions being effective? And how is this whole thing working? Is the risk exposure reducing? How are we performing against it? And I think the key thing is in the middle of that little diagram there, where we're using our systems to share risk information between Crossrail and the contractors. We currently have 28 contract teams. That's 14 separate contractor organisations who are actively using our risk management database. So that is the extent of the sort of the level of engagement we've got from our supply chain, and that's really why we need to take this model, because doing that any other way other than with a shared platform was not going to work. So when we look at how we implement this way of working, there are 4 kind of main headings. We've established a contract requirement. But having established a contract requirement, we are also supporting the supply chain, supporting the contractors to develop their own capabilities. As well as doing that, we are measuring their performance in risk management as well as other aspects, and we are sharing those results both internally and externally. So our contract requirements, the wording in our contracts clearly states that the contractor is to put in place their own process for managing risk, which provides assurance that those risks are being managed back to our project manager. And it's that ownership that's really important. We'll see later on that we're looking for a consistent process across the piece, something that's consistent with how we operate risk on Crossrail, but it's something that is owned by the contractors, and that's critical. And there are a number of specific requirements which together create a common process and terminology. Every contractor on every contract has to develop a risk management plan which references back to Crossrail's risk management principles. And that's how we make sure that we get a consistent approach. Every contractor must nominate a suitably qualified risk manager. That can be either a dedicated risk manager or somebody who has a part role on the project. Every contractor has to develop a register of significant risks, which we call the contractor risk log. And we put in place the requirement that we're looking for a regular discussion of risk. It's about getting that discussion, for me. That's the key thing, a conversation about risk between the client project manager and the Crossrail project manager, and we support that process. And then the top bar there, the yellow bar, is that the contractors are engaged with us in carrying out our own cost and schedule risk assessments. So in terms of how we develop capability, we've actually, it's a key part of our approach that we're not just placing these requirements on contractors, but we're supporting them to be able to satisfy them better. And Crossrail has implemented what we call a performance assurance process, which covers not just risk management, but all other project controls and other functional requirements. So it covers risk and cost management, schedule management, as well as health and safety, environment, and other sort of stakeholder management pieces. And essentially what this is, it's a maturity model which supports contractors to work from compliance with the contract as a basic level, up to what we are calling world class or best in class. And basically this process works, as I say, on all functions. Risk management has its own maturity matrix, and we work with contractors, visiting them probably on an annual basis to see how they're moving up the curve. And we also measure performance on a regular basis. There's a scorecard here looking at our sort of top 10 to 15 contractors and how they're performing in all different aspects, not just risk. In risk management, we are looking at how their metrics and their engagement activity in our ARM database, our risk management database. And this happens every period, and out of this will come some actions to go and find out what's gone wrong or what's gone right, and really support all the contractors to satisfy those contract requirements. And a key part of this process is that we share these results. We assess the performance levels across all the functions. We include both the capability reviews and the periodic metrics, and we share these assessments within the supply chain. So between the contractors, they can see where they stand against their peers, but we also communicate these results to other infrastructure client organisations. We're working closely with an organisation called Infrastructure UK, which is a unit within Her Majesty's Treasury, which leads on UK infrastructure and policies and priorities. And our aspiration is through this process that we have a general, with the reach of Crossrail, we have a positive influence on the industry. And we're also working with the top performers to promote their achievements on Crossrail and working with the others to make sure they get into that top performing region. So in summary, we're promoting a collaborative approach with our supply chain. In risk management, that means developing a common process. It means not only sharing and using risk information, but also developing risk management capability. We currently have 28 contract teams, 17 different contractor organisations actively using our risk management database arm, and we're already seeing some real benefits. There is evidence through these regular reviews we carry out of improving risk management capability, and some real tangible positive outcomes, improvements in the way that some of the works are constructed, improvements in the way that some of the supply chain is managed and the lower tiers of supply chain are procured and managed, and really a strong focus from the contractors on what our objectives are and how we can work together to achieve them. So in summary, risk management is critical to Crossrail's success. We've always had this benefit of strong support from within our organisation, and we're now spreading that and getting in good engagement from our supply chain. And I'm very confident that risk management will be shown to give positive outcomes for both clients and contractor alike. That concludes this webinar on collaborative risk management. You can find more about Crossrail and keep up with our progress by looking at our website or any of the other methods listed. Thank you for joining me. I'll now hand you back to the conference organisers.